McIntyre. Could you leave the lights high, please? I know some folks say that paganism leads you into dark places, but it's really embarrassing when that stops you reading your notes. This is my retiral speech, and I'm too far from the mic, and should probably be called Memoirs of a Dinosaur. You may not believe this, but when I first became a Pagan Federation activist back in 1994, there wasn't a single grey hair in my beard. Some of you hadn't got around to being born yet, and I didn't need these damned reading glasses. That was quite a long time ago now, but there was work obviously needing done then. When I was asked to start the Scottish campaign for recognition of paganism through interfaith, I thought, yeah, I can probably do something useful there. After that, one thing led to another. Dialogue with representatives of other religions, talking to politicians, civil servants, the police, NHS staff, council workers, academics, and even stranger people. And believe me, there are few stranger people than academics. Many presentations to the media, building up the organisation, and focusing it fairly single-mindedly on civic recognition. I even ended up president of the PF England and Wales as well as of Scottish PF for a while, which was certainly an interesting experience, if not entirely a restful one. In all those years, there are two things that I'm particularly proud of. The first is the 4-year campaign to negotiate pagan membership of the Edinburgh Interfaith Association, followed by a further and much harder 14 years negotiating our way into Scottish Interfaith Council. During that process, some faith groups that were at first strongly opposed to us gradually came to accept and even respect pagans. We can all feel proud that this beloved Scotland was the first European country to recognise paganism as a legitimate minority religion within its national civic life. The second is the amicable reorganisation within the PF in 2006 that saw Scottish PF become a truly independent, national religious organisation whose leadership is democratically elected by our members every 3 years. Democracy may sometimes have problems, but it's still better than the alternatives. Whatever names may be attached to particular achievements, all the progress Scottish PF has made over the years depended on pagans working together. Effective action is nearly always collective action. I'd like to thank Jean and Jim Fowler for their early work in laying the foundations of what became the Scottish PF. I'd like to pay particular tribute to two old comrades, Louise Park and Fiona Tinker, for their major roles in campaigning over the years. And I'd like to praise the love of my life, Kitty McIntyre, who has not only been a strong support in my own campaigning work, but always a formidably effective activist and organiser in her own right. Kitty and I are deeply, deeply honoured to have been leading figures in the PF generally, and the Scottish PF in particular, for what is now alarmingly close to a generation. To have played our small part in the pagan revival across both Scotland and the rest of Europe. Looking at you all gathered here today, I see many, many friends who've supported us year after year in that. We are very, very grateful. We could never have done what we've done without you. But now, as my grandchildren never tire of pointing out, I'm a dinosaur, and it's time to be stepping down to let evolution move along. Over the past few years, Kitty and I have been incredibly impressed by the vision, ability, and sheer workaholic dedication of Steffi and Jen. They've already done a lot more than just organising today's conference, and they're full of ideas for the future. Soon, Kitty and I will have finished handing the management of Scottish PF over to them, and they have our wholehearted support. Thank you for twice voting for me to lead this organisation, but when the next elections are held later this year, I will not be standing for election again. In closing, I'd like to share some hopes for the future. Like many here, I was a pagan long before I realised there was a name for what I felt. Beneath its wonderful diversity, paganism has a slightly paradoxical identity. It's a very ancient way of thinking re-emerging in this modern world, with its deep themes of goddess worship, polytheism and pantheism, and its close interweaving relationship between the human and the divine. But it's also a very modern way of thinking, rooted in the love of nature, in feminism, freedom, responsibility, ecology, inclusion, tolerance and diversity. We are a religion that passionately embraces and celebrates the wholeness of life. In some ways we rebel against established convention. Many still see us as a wild and woolly fringe who hug trees and dance naked by moonlight. And if anyone here hasn't done both these things, then shame on you for letting the sign down. But we are also the origins of established convention. Let us never forget that our European civilization grows from pagan roots, the foundation stones of our culture, democracy, philosophy, science, the arts, and constitutional government under the rule of law, all come down to us from earlier pagan societies, earlier pagan cultures. We have a responsibility to this sacred and magnificent heritage, and its inherent paradoxes discourage us from ever believing that we and we alone will know the truth. We don't seek to rule others, but paganism will be part of the future. And I hope and pray that we'll work to make that future saner, greener and more life-affirming. And I trust that Scottish PF and the present and future activists gathered here today will play a major role in helping this come to be. Keep pure your highest ideal, strive ever towards it. Thank you.